because the boss babe also many times reflects a I don't know why this is the word. I think that bitchiness, like that somehow, that there's this air about you that makes you better than other people. And that is not leadership at all.
Welcome to the Spinoso Podcast. I'm Dr. Alex Spinoso, and as always, I'm here to share real, no bullshit lessons with you about the medical and aesthetic industry. And today, we're flipping the script because this episode is all about women in leadership. So it's going to be short because you have tiny brains. Oh, people didn't hate me. They definitely do now. No, we're going to talk about women because we've got an amazing, amazing co-host and woman here. Badass boss babe, right? Beauty babe, boss babe, powerhouse leader, CEO of multiple companies, and co-host Amanda May.
Thank you for having me.
Welcome. You're welcome on the show. This is the first time, right?
Yep.
On the show?
First time.
All right.
First time for everything.
There you go.
I'm super excited about this particular conversation because I know this is something that a lot of women struggle with. This is a conversation I gave at the 9-Figure Board Mastermind conference, and our conversation, this is a topic that I discussed, and I had many high-level women come up and go, oh my God, this is exactly what I needed to hear, and this is something that I deal with, and it's nice to have somebody else relate to the situation that I'm in. There's this struggle between we want to succeed and also we want to stay true to who we are. And what does that look like? There's this tension that we feel, is it do we need to be aggressive or, do we need to be one of the guys in order to move up in leadership and get ahead? Or can you lead with more grace and empathy and can that be a strength? And so I've had to learn this on my own journey when it comes to the balance between being successful and do I need to play by somebody else's rules to get there? And so leading more with a level of authenticity, confidence, and connection has been where I've seen you can show up and still be the strongest person in the room, but not compete with a man in the process, but really kind of complete the whole picture and complement any sort of business relationship or environment where you're surrounded by men.
Right, and as a female in the business world, a lot of times if you act the same as a man or do the same steps as a man, you're going to be labeled as a bitch. You're going to be labeled as somebody who's hard to get along with, etc. However, you're acting exactly the same as a dude would be in the same exact position. So you already have something you have to overcome when it comes to that. And that strength that you talk about, I mean, women have a strength beyond all fucking strength. Let me tell you, my wife has given birth to fucking triplets and, the singlet or singleton, not a singlet. A singlet's just an outfit that you wear during wrestling. So she didn't give birth to a singlet, a singleton. But that being said, I definitely would never have been able to go through either of those fucking things. And you've had, 2 kids as well. Definitely, if men had to give birth, there would be no fucking humanity would have ended long, long, long ago. And having that iron will, that steel will, and one of the things that you talk about is having this idea of being velvet covered steel. So explain kind of what that means to be that, and why is it such a game changer for women and women specifically in leadership roles?
Yeah, I mean, it's about leading with connection and grace and intuition. And you can still be strong on the inside. You have this unshakable core of strength. I mean, to carry 3 children at one time, you got to be strong for that. But how you show up is still soft and genuine and gentle in a sense. That's going back to your wife or us having kids. Um, that's a reflection of velvet covered steel. And in the work environment, it's I can come in with my own opinions and ideas and come in and speak to you in a soft, gentle manner, not that's not weak, that's actually a strength, but eh, what we've discussed on other podcasts is I have reasons for why I believe the things that I believe and standing up for those things, but not doing it necessarily in like a confrontational or a, bossy kind of way, and really being able to be both soft and nurturing and assertive. It's like there's a lot of beauty in that, and some of the best leaders know how to balance both. Well, one of the shows that you suggested that I watched, and I watched every episode for like 6 seasons, was the show Billions,
Mhm.
and it kinda reminds me of the character Wendy Rhodes. It's somebody that you brought up. You're like, "I kinda see you like this person." I'm like, "I gotta check this out," and I became addicted to Wendy Rhodes. I was like, "I love her character, it's
Mhm.
fantastic." And she's incredibly intuitive. She balances between these 2 powerhouse men. She's got this emotional intelligence to navigate between her boss and her husband and all of the drama for the show that gets created between them. And she's a character that knows how to be persuasive when it's necessary. She's firm and she's completely unshakable, but plays a very soft role in both of these 2 strong powerhouse lives that she finds herself between. And, it reminds me a lot of how to become a real strong leader for a female. So Wendy Rhodes' character, if you've never watched Billions, it's great. You gotta watch it. I would literally turn on episodes at like 6 a.m. and run for the whole episode. Sometimes I would turn on 2. Like I would run 7 miles because I would just be addicted to like watching this show. It's great, great workout. But anyway, it's like in those moments of really learning how to lean into femininity and not feel like leadership equals masculinity or that masculinity equals leadership, because it doesn't. And to be a strong leader and to have that velvet covered steel, there it does take the balance of both aspects.
Yeah, it's important to be both sides of the coin and be tactful because I've at the beginning of my career blown people out. Yelled at people, screamed at people, trying to get things done. And I know a lot of times Sean, our head of HR, God love him, because I don't. Um, just kidding. I hate HR. But he says, "How do you gain commitment, not compliance?" I say, "I'd rather have fucking compliance as we grow." But that being said, it's important to play both sides of the coin, and you tell a story, and I'll let you tell it about what we had to do and how I had to step in and support you with one of our marketing teams, or essentially our website team. Great people, just at that time did not respond to what you were saying.
Yeah, and it hasn't just been them, there's been other situations too, but, you know, I'll preface it by saying when you're a strong female in a business and you do have a leadership position, when you have healthy masculine leaders around you, there is a natural play between the 2 roles that happens, and the support of the masculine allows for more safety for the feminine to show up. And we've experienced this. I've experienced this with you. And one of those situations was some marketing data that we needed. And I had emailed our marketing team and was like, I need this information. And they didn't get back to me. And so then I emailed again, like, hey, following up, still didn't get what I needed. And then, 10 days later, when they finally replied, you stepped in and you were like, "Hey, this is unacceptable. Like, if she asked you for something, it is just like if I ask you for something." So your willingness to step in there and kind of elevate me to that level created a space where I could still be kinda soft and in my approach and you could be a bit more assertive in your approach, but it let them know like what was appropriate in that situation and set the expectation going forward. And now I get an email response when I ask for
Yeah.
something,
Yeah, no,
which
they
is great.
fucking pay attention.
um, but you've said that even in our meetings, you've said things where you've told the team, like, this is the role Amanda's in. And if she asked you for something, make sure you get it to her. It's just like if I ask you for it. And I think that's super important, especially, when I have gone from being a peer to with some of the team members to being elevated. It's like, do they still see me in that peer role where they don't need to have the same level of respect or care if I ask for something? And so continuing to have that kind of assertive strength on your side, it helps me stand stronger with what I'm asking for. And that is unfolding a bit more even as we progress and we're redoing all the branding and things like that. Um, and so it was a slightly different approach, but both super powerful, and what you did helped support the strength I could have going forward, and still be very compassionate in my approach when I'm asking for things in the future. And I think that's an important part of the balance. If you're female, you're listening to this and you're like, how do I balance the softness with the assertiveness? The reality is you can still ask for things very nicely. You can still be a kind person, but be direct and get what you need, get the responses that you need
Yeah,
from people.
absolutely, 100%. And, being being direct is the best way you can possibly be. Don't waste fucking people's times. It takes forever. If it takes forever to get a response, whether you're a male or a female, it shouldn't. Period. Good business practices, good vendors, they won't care whether you're a male or a female on the other end. All they want is to get shit done.
Mm.
And all you should want is to get shit done. So if you're a female running a business, you shouldn't tolerate somebody, well, taking time to get back to you. And yes, you might have other, men supporting you in your role and stuff like that. But if you're the CEO, if you're running things or if you have a project, like you should not just sit back and say, hey, this is acceptable.
Mm.
It should not be fucking acceptable for them to do something like that. Now, it might be different, the tact that's there, because I pretty much told them, don't fucking do this again. If she asks you, you fucking do it. If you say jump, you say how high, because people forget they still fucking work for you. They may have their own business, but they fucking work for you, period, when it comes to vendors, anybody with your business. Because guess what? I could go find another fucking company to do websites. It's not like that's a fucking hard business to find somebody else to do it. So when it comes to your vendors, make sure that they're on point. And if you're a female leader, and they're taking forever to get back to you, hey, this is unacceptable. How is this high quality service? Period.
Mm.
Because those businesses who have high quality service, they won't care whether you're a male or a female or a transvestite or whatever the fuck you are. If you're a CEO business of the business and you reach out to them, a good business will serve you in whatever way they possibly can. Period. And
Yeah, I think
again,
it's
we
when
kind of
it's knowing when
yeah,
to lead
absolutely.
with warmth
Hmm.
and lead with strength.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Versus, hitting him in the side of the head with the velvet covered steel.
Well, and now that the tone has been set,
Yeah.
I could go in and be more assertive in that
Right.
and not be viewed as being bitchy
Exactly.
because that is the stage has been set there.
Exactly. So
Yep.
what do you say to the women though? Because you said how a lot of times females feel like they have to prove themselves and do it all on their own, but at the same time, you've said that mentorship was a huge factor in your success. Can you unpack that and talk about that a little bit more?
Yeah, I mean, when I first started out, it was we laugh boss babe, right? It's this term in the aesthetics world that a lot of people started using, like boss babe, as if that somehow makes you a boss. But it's this mentality of like, I got to do it all myself. And um, especially in the aesthetics world where Instagram and social media is something you can post a your work and it's all you doing it. And then you also have this bossy attitude of like, let me show off my car or my new designer handbag or this vacation I'm on or whatever. And it somehow makes you look like a boss, but that's not really, it's about being a leader and not necessarily being a boss. Um, and then I feel like that term kind of gets misused because the boss babe also many times reflects a I don't know why this is the word. I think that bitchiness,
Mhm.
like that somehow, this that there's this air about you that makes you better than other people, and that is not leadership at all. Um, and I had to learn that at the beginning that I remember sitting at a table with I had 5 girls that worked for me at my, beauty academy in Ohio, and we were going to one of the girls' weddings, and we're sitting around the table, and my assistant was talking about how she made all the place cards for the wedding, and I without thinking about it, and in my ignorance, said to her in that moment, "Did you do that on company time?" Bad, very bad, bad Amanda. Um, but it was like, 1, that wasn't the place, that wasn't kindness at all, and there was just a way better way to handle that, and I just did not do that very well. But, it was like at that point, I felt her just kinda, like, deflate, and it was like, that's not good. Yeah, I'm being bossy,
Mhm.
but that's not being a leader at all. So I have had these things come up where I've really had to learn, how to shift that mentality and know that she was great. She was a great assistant. Like I didn't want to lose her, but that wasn't a way to keep her. And so, the truth is you can't do it all alone. And I think I had a lot of that mentality at the beginning, like, I got this, like you said in previous podcasts, your dad, if you want it done right, do it yourself. I don't know how many times I have actually said that to myself,
Mhm.
especially when first starting out.
Right.
So I really had to learn these things. And, back to your question on mentorship, it's extremely powerful. And I hired my first business coach I think I was very, very, very early on when I started my business. And I just was like, I went in there and I was like, I got all this figured out. And da, 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 look at all this stuff I had. And she was just like, you are all smoke and mirrors. You have nothing here of value. What are you talking about? Why are you coming into my office acting like you are the bee's knees? Because you are not the bee's
Yeah.
knees. And I was just like, really? I'm not? I don't understand. Um, and then I paid her to tell me that too, which is wild. But no, like
Right?
the mentorship was super important because she taught me a lot. And there's been a lot of mentors, I would say, along the years, not just people that I've hired, but men along the way that have seen things in me and put me in positions to actually learn and grow and develop. And so I'm definitely where I'm at today because of really great men around me. And that's why I say to come into a situation where you feel like you have to compete with men, you're doing yourself a disservice because it might be those very men that you're competing with that are going to be the ones that are mentoring you to a better place, like our relationship. And that has happened over the years where I've continued to be able to grow and develop within Genesis because there's been this mentorship relationship with you and Brent. And, really finding a lot of value in that along the way. And sometimes it's the hard truth of a friend or a mentor along the way. And that reminds me of another story where it was a tough one. I was doing this event with a friend and I really showed up like at the beginning of my career, like what I was talking about, thinking I had all of it figured out and together. And I was focused on proving myself. I was very disconnected. I was kind of like a bulldozer in my conversations. I had no free attention to have any curiosity about anyone else. I was very self-focused. And We left the event. I did this event with another kind of, she was a colleague-ish kind of friend at the time. And after the event, she called me and she said, "If you show up like you did today, I don't want to do business with you." And I was very defensive. I was like, "What are you talking about? I cannot even believe that you would say such a thing. Like, I'm fantastic." And then I realized I wasn't, and that I actually in the drive to be something, prove myself or my value, I was really missing the mark on human connection and true leadership. And that moment, it really changed me. And that's when I got into personal development. That was the tipping point that made me start seeking more self-awareness and helped me learn how to lead in a different way. Then again, this was 15 or 20 years ago even. But this woman actually has become like my best friend. And we've been, best friends since I started doing personal development because, I quickly realized how I did not have all of the things together that I thought I had. And I had a lot of growing to do.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I've had to learn these things along the way.
That's so important that having the mindset to be able to realize that you have to improve and recognizing it is vital to being a better leader, being a better person, being a better business owner. You have to be able to recognize that like you did. And again, obviously, this person was somebody that you respect and that you wanted to work with. So you wanted to listen to them. It wasn't like some fucking nobody on the internet that's like, I would never work with you. Fucking good. Cool. I don't wanna fucking work with you either, Sam that lives in his basement with 7 people. I don't care. So, making sure that you are really listening to where that advice is coming from, where those opinions are coming from, and if it's coming from a place or a person that you respect, then you should absolutely be open to it, listen to it, take it in and say, "Hey, you know what? What am I what am I missing here? What am I looking at here that I need to be better?" And that's really about how you win people over. Getting people to do what you say. We talked about commitment, not compliance, and a lot of these things and a lot of great leaders, they don't just get compliance, they create commitment. They create people who want to follow them and run through walls for them. And so how does that look like really from a female aspect of getting that compliance or not getting that compliance, but getting that commitment instead of just telling people, "Hey, this is how it's gonna be." Because I think that's where, female leaders get told they're a bitch because they're trying to overcompensate for their femininity, so they try and act like a male, and then they just think all males act like dicks all the time.
Mm.
So they might be a little bit harsher than they have to be, and then they're called a bitch, and there's like there's a very delicate balance there, I think, for a female. That's harder than a male in order to, like, win people over the right way.
Yeah. Well, I mean, think about it this way. It's like, do you want people to do things because they have to or because they want to follow you? And I think that's the big question as a female leader. That's great leadership. When you ask that question and your bend is more like, I want people to want to be a part of this and to want to do the things that I'm asking, not like, "Oh, I gotta do this thing," It's like, "No, I want to, I get to." And that would be the mentality around it. So, it's not about, like, barking orders, at people, but like you said, it's inspiring people to take action, to follow your leadership, and being an inspiration. It reminds me of the CEO, Angela from, Burberry. She came into a failing brand. I mean, she's a perfect example of this, where she came into the company and she led with heart, and she wasn't demanding results. I mean, they weren't doing well when she took over, but she built real relationships, and she really cared about her team. She made them feel valued, she listened to them, and when people feel valued, they're going to work harder. And that's how you get That's how you get
So
commitment.
how do you get that commitment? Like, what are the steps that you should be doing in that case?
Yeah.
Because leading with your heart, I mean, sounds great. Inspiring people, leading with your heart sounds great. But what do you do? How do you do it?
Yeah, I think that, being real with your team, knowing that connection is what's going to speak volumes, and genuinely caring and having curiosity about their life, about who they are, what's going on for them. Why do they think the way that they think? What's their lens and viewpoint in this life? Because they might have insights that you don't have. They have experiences that you don't have. So even if they're not at a top level leader, they have experiences that add value. It's like things that we've talked about in our meetings, really truly having reverence and respect for the people that you've attracted into your environment. They're sitting there as a gift. So seeing people as a gift. So first, it's really about being real and having that connection. And then from there, it goes into communicating the vision. It's like casting the vision so that people can see themselves as a part of the vision. That's where you create inspiration. So cast that vision, expand beyond anything maybe these people have ever thought about being a part of before. People want to be a part of something bigger than themselves. So setting that tone in the direction, and people like direction. They want to be, not everyone's a leader. So some people want to be told what to do, where to go. How do we get there is it's kind of, that's your role. It's like, here's what we're going to do and here's how we're going to get there. When I say being told what to do, not in a bossy way, but like, this is the direction we're all moving, and then they see themselves as a part of it. And then third, it's leading by example. That's the final piece of it. You have to lead by example. And people don't respect what you say if they don't see you doing it. If you're it's like the person that's like, "Hey, go take out the trash," but you're not ever willing to take out the trash. Like, they're gonna respect you for what you do and how you show up. And I think that in a more recent experience, we've sat in meetings, recently with people where we've been talking about business, and leading up to the meetings, I was, like, nervous, and I was super in my head and, like, "Am I smart enough? Do I have the information that I need to have? Am I gonna say things the way I need to say it?" And, in my head, I'm not sleeping, and I'm, like, thinking about how important these meetings are. And I remember the morning of the first meeting, I woke up and I had such a peace. And I remember going to bed that night thinking, who do I need to be? Not about what I need to say. It's not about the information that I know or how smart I look. Who do I need to be as a human being? What presence do I need to have? And I think this is where I dropped into more of like a feminine place. It's like, let me move intuitively during these meetings to say what's on my heart, to really feel the environment, to match the energy of the people that are there. Like, I think that's the power of a woman. It's like we feel a lot. If you're tapped into it, if you can turn the mind off and not be so busy in the head and really move into the heart, you feel things. You can feel intuitively when is the right time to talk, what's the right thing to say. And it's like not from a place of looking a certain way because I want these people to believe I'm valuable or an asset, but because I feel in that moment, this is what needs to be said. And when I did that, the response was great. It was like, "Hey, thanks for sharing that information." Um, and I think that is a real reflection of how you can be velvet covered steel. We were in very important meetings. You got to show up strong. I had to show up strong, like in my place as a woman, but also have this velvet aspect to what I was saying and how I was communicating in these environments.
And so, moving one step past that, what you're talking about right now, is really is the freedom of expression as a leader to be able to do what you need to do. It's, not fitting into the mold, but showing up how you want to show up. And I know you have a quote that you have about this, but talk about talk about that. Just talk about how women can be that, can show up as that with that freedom of expression.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's not feeling like you have to fit in some type of mold, like even with attire, like, what does a female leader look like? It's like, can you can you wear leather pants? I wore leather. I was saying that because I wore leather pants to our corporate meeting.
Mhm,
I tend to wear all black, but hey, you know what? I want to wear black leather pants to the meeting.
mhm.
But then the next day I'm going to wear a Chanel style dress,
Yeah.
like just being able to express yourself in I still say a very professional way, because if expressing yourself on the street means your boobs are always out,
Yeah.
you might wanna not do
You can
that.
come work for me.
You might not
Yeah,
wanna do that in
yeah.
a business meeting.
That's not the best. Do not
No,
do that.
actually, my son asked me, side note, he asked me that. He's like, "Mom, you used to wear,
All these
more
skimpy
revealing
outfits.
clothes."
Yeah, all these skimpy outfits.
And I was like, "I thought you were too young to remember that." But
Yeah,
anyway,
yeah, yeah.
no, he's like, "You don't dress like that anymore." And
Yeah,
I
yeah,
was
yeah,
like, "Yeah." I was like, "Well,
yeah.
as I've gotten a little older and
Cocaine's a hell of a drug.
I feel like I'm in a position where, I want to be taken seriously.
Absolutely.
It's not that I need to be buttoned up to my neck, but I also know that how I show up is a reflection of the company. Uh, and I wanna be seen for being smart, not just beautiful
Yeah.
or big boobs or whatever
Yeah, yeah,
somebody
yeah.
could think, but really somebody valuing, like, what I bring to the table. And so, he's like, "Well," he's also a 21-year-old boy who probably loves looking at women in skimpy clothes.
You're right.
He's like, "Well, I think you could do both." I was like, "Well, I'm gonna
Yeah,
stick to my
yeah. Well, we'll make
sweaters."
sure at least your friends dress like that.
But anyway, to go back on track as far as freedom of expression, it's knowing your environment and showing up as that. And eh, not feeling like you necessarily need to fit in a mold. Do you need to have a suit on at every meeting? No, maybe not. Maybe you wear a dress. Like for an example, I get tattoos. I like tattoos. So, I have a whole leg piece and it continues to get bigger. And so it's like, yeah, I have on a nice dress, but my tattoo is showing. Um, and that in all of that, I say that it doesn't necessarily mean you have to lead a certain way, in order to be a good leader. But it is about really embracing that, like, who you actually are and what you bring to the table. So, for example, like what I shared in the meetings, I could show up and talk about all the smart things I know, but that's not authentically like who I am. Like, I'm going to leave that to the people like Chad that need to be talking about those things,
Mhm.
And then I'm going to go over here and be authentic in this other aspect of business and bring a different level of value. So it's like not trying to fit in some sort of mold to think that that's what is going to make you a better leader or more important, but really authentically coming from like a genuine place. People feel that. And the world needs more of that transparency and authenticity when it comes to women in leadership. And one of the quote that you were referring to is from Saint Catherine of Siena. It's be who you are meant to be, and you will set the world on fire. And I think the most powerful women, when they walk in the room, the best leaders are the ones that own their uniqueness. Um, and that's what makes people want to follow them, because it's like the more I express my uniqueness in leadership, it gives other people the freedom to express their uniqueness too. And I actually have to laugh, and this is not from a female perspective, but I laugh in some of our meetings because the things that you say, it's so you, but it seems like it's so crazy And
Mhm.
I'm like, we're in these serious meetings, and in one of the meetings, there was one of the gentlemen we were talking to was very stoic. Did not have much expression, didn't laugh a whole lot. Like you would tell your jokes, didn't laugh a whole lot, was just very, very analytical, very data driven gentleman. And I saw at one point you said something so you, and he laughed, and he, really laughed, like, he really enjoyed it, and I was like, "That's nice." After a whole day of being super stoic, he busted a smile out, and I was like,
Mhm.
"That's good, he's enjoying
Mhm.
this." And that was a great reflection of you just showing up the way that you do, and, it allowed him to soften a little bit throughout the day,
Mhm.
and we got a good laugh out of him. So, that was cool, and I think women can do the same.
And yeah, and really we try and create an environment where people can be themselves, and I know you do that as well. But how do you create that balance? How do you encourage people to create,
Mm.
be themselves, do what they want to, express how they want to be, but still show up not wearing, a string bikini or looking unprofessional or acting unprofessional? How do you like balance that out from a female aspect? Really encouraging these people to feel free to be yourselves and be creative and be who you were meant to be. But some people who they think they were meant to be is not a fucking good person, or not a good person, but it's the wild child or acting out or being, confrontational. How do you wrangle that in from a female leadership perspective?
Yeah, well, example is gonna be important. It, goes back to that, leading by example. Um, and then creating a culture of openness. You wanna be open to have the conversations where people can share their ideas or their thoughts about why they're doing something without fear of judgment. And I think that's where you can coach people.
Mhm.
It's like if you, let's say, wear a string bikini. I, as a leader, have an opportunity to sit with you and find out what the motivating reasoning behind it was, and then give some more perspective. Do I come down with judgment and criticism, or do I create an open space where I can share another perspective? Hey, when you wear a string bikini to work, there's these other things that result from a decision like that. And then if you want to be a leader, you're setting the example for your team, and is that what you would want for your team? Would you and I sent you this question early on when I first started getting into leadership within the company. A question I ask myself often, and is a good question to kinda plant in people's minds: "If everyone in the organization showed up like me, would we be in a better place?"
Mm.
And
That's
if
good.
you can't
That's really
say
good.
yes, then you need to reassess how you're showing up.
That's so good.
So it's a question, it's a check-in. Let me check in with myself. In this environment, in this situation, if everyone showed up like me, would we be in a better place? And that that takes openness. So you have to create an environment where people are open to share with you things that are really going on in their lives, struggles that they really have, because it helps you understand why they are doing the things that they are doing. What beliefs do they have that cause them to think that was a good idea? Because it's everything is created from beliefs. You had to believe that you would be here in some capacity in your life. You had to believe that this would manifest because you created it. And everything comes from the beliefs. It's like if you believe you can or you can't, you're right. Either way,
Yeah.
right? And so you have to get to the core of what people are believing to understand why they're making decisions they're making. And then you can go, okay, well, maybe that belief is coming from this other situation. So maybe let's work on the belief structure.
Yeah.
And so that goes a bit deeper, but it does create it has to you have to create a culture of openness in order to have that level of honesty and transparency and communication. And people have to not be afraid, that they're gonna be reprimanded because they're, I would say, for lack of a better word, imperfect. Because 'cause aren't we all, right? Some of us are just a little more evolved on the path
Yeah.
than some. And then, I think celebrating individuality, but coaching up so that they can see that there's a greater level of excellence that they need to behave, like guidelines, boundaries. I read this really great book called Boundaries years ago. Um, and it's amazing that you setting boundaries, it's like raising kids. They want boundaries. It creates a sense of safety
Mhm.
when you have boundaries. So it's like boundaries with our, uniforms, or boundaries with what's acceptable in our clinics. And as a leader, like, that is your role, is to set boundaries. Like, "Hey, you can operate in this space in here, but here's a guideline and here's a guideline. Anywhere in there, you're cool. Go for it. Be you. Be unique." It's like how we treat our clients, the
Mhm.
customer service aspect. There are guidelines on how it is acceptable, that Ritz-Carlton mindset, to treat our clients.
Mhm.
And in there, you can have some fun. You can play around with how and what and who, all the things, but you have to stay within these boundaries. The same thing with, setting. So if you see somebody pushing the boundaries, like kids often do, what do? You steer them back. Now, if
Yeah.
they
You
continue
beat
to
the shit out of them, like your employees.
If they continue to do it, then they might not be a great fit for your culture, but
Yeah.
they have to show that they're willing to take constructive criticism, and you have to be willing to give it, but you can do it in a loving way, and then you reward people for the things that make them unique, you know? I think that that also is beneficial. When you reward the behavior you like, you get more of the behavior you like.
Absolutely the truth. Absolutely the truth. And even taking it one step further, when you reward the behavior that's almost there,
Mm.
then again, they're going to improve upon that and they're going to be more open to saying, okay, I'm going to go all the way. Because sometimes they might mess up part of the way through the process, but it's okay. They tried to go in that direction. Hey, you're doing great. Keep moving in that direction and keep growing. And you're absolutely right. So this has been an incredible conversation. Really, in closing, what is one key takeaway that women in leadership positions in their companies um, can hold on to?
Yeah, I would say own who you are, lead, really lead unapologetically, and then know that your strength as a woman is your greatest advantage, because you don't have to choose between being soft and being assertive, or being strong and, you know, being velvet. You don't have to choose. You can do both. You can be both. And the balance of both is actually the best version of what femininity looks like. And if you struggle with femininity, I would say, and leading from a feminine place, is take a look at where in life maybe you've put up some masculine shields. You've been either hurt by a man, disappointed by a man, father figure. Really look at your relationship with the masculine, and start to see where you maybe put up shields and you said, "Fine, if, I'm gonna be treated this way, well, then I'll just step into that masculine role for myself." Um and that's something that I dealt with, losing my father at a very early age, and then, my stepfather leaving, and going through some abuse. I had a very hard wall up,
Mm.
because I felt like I would never let those things happen to me again. And if I provided for myself, I didn't have to count on a man. I didn't have to open myself up to being feminine, because I got it. I'm tough. I got it. I can do this by myself. But that's just not the place that women lead the best from. So if you struggle with femininity or feminine leadership, explore some of those things and see where you're holding on to these walls or these ideas of what masculine and feminine really are because of things maybe from your past. And when you explore those things and you clean those things up, whether that's going to counseling or reading books on it or watching YouTube videos, there's a lot of aspects of digging into that you can do. Um, I think it will open some things up to allow you to soften a bit more and really lead from a place of velvet covered steel.
Love that. Absolutely love that. Well, guys, that's all we have for you today. If this helped you, please share it with another badass boss babe or female in your company or, male in your company so they could get insight as to how the women in your company should show up and how they should show up for them. And as always, like, subscribe, tell us how we're doing. If you have questions, email, questions at dralexspinoso.com. And if you want to learn more or join our medical mastermind, go to joincharismatics.com where we talk about stuff like this. Thank you for listening to the Spinoso podcast, and now go out there and own your space.